thank all of you tuning into tonight's program here on the Lime Time Podcast Network. Before we officially begin, we pay honor, respect, and salute the greatest nation in the world as we play our national anthem.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, for that ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets right glare, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Falls Count Everywhere podcast here on the Lime Time Podcast Network. Thanks for joining us again here this Thursday night, and we're happy to be with you here once again. My name is Rough Cut Rick Ruby, and we're here again for episode 6. We're still hanging and banging here, apparently, so we're doing something, at least now, right, since we switched to a Mac and got rid of all that Windows garbage. So once again, I am Rough Cut Rick Ruby, and I am your co-host and your MC. Joining me on the other side here is our other co-host here, who apparently says he's done so many great things that he needs no introduction, so I'm not going to introduce him. But I'll put the CG up anyway. There he is, Mr. GQ, Matthew Wayne Schuyler III. Hello, GQ. Hello.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know you were talking. Sorry, I was just engrossed in this book.
Oh, yes,
He
yes.
he reminded me of a dolphin jumping out of the water. It sounded like an explosion. The shot that I delivered would have made Brody smile with delight. Ruby wilted and the crowd gasped. Oh, this is you. Sorry, I just.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's just me. It's just me. Yeah, it's only just me. Anyway, guys. Yeah, that is the Blood, Tables, and Chairs book that we're going to be talking about later here tonight with our featured guest, Attila Khan. And, like I said, he'll be coming on here roughly around 8:30 or so. Just a couple. We wanted to address a few things here for you here tonight. Of course, the chat room is open here. For those who are watching on the Lime Time Podcast Network page. And, let's go ahead and get into our notes here. A couple nights ago here, once again, 2020 seems to be the year that everybody hates for one way or another. And this time, it's this past Tuesday, we had lost another long-time wrestling veteran and killer Tim Brooks. Tim Brooks passed away last Tuesday night. He had been battling cancer, and he finally succumbed. So he did pass away. And so with that, right now, we're going to take a moment of silence, and we are going to pay a 10-bell salute to a longtime wrestling veteran and a guy who definitely made his mark around the nation, and Killer Tim Brooks. Yeah, once again, a 10-bell salute was for Killer Tim Brooks, who passed away this past Tuesday night at the age of 72, losing his battle to cancer. Trained by the original Sheik and Dick Murdoch up in Detroit, Michigan, his wrestling career started in 1969. Wrestled for roughly just shy of... he went over the 28-year mark, but he did retire late in 97. Brooks had wrestled in multiple territories in the National Wrestling Alliance throughout the U.S., winning several championships. He also wrestled in the North American Wrestling Alliance, the NAWA. And, of course, toward the end of his career, he moved back down his home turf, in Dallas, where he finished up with World Class Championship Wrestling and USWA. Man hailing from Waxahachie, Texas. Definitely left his mark here with a lot of us wrestling around the territories and improving well. Of course, his notable championship, winning the NWA National Heavyweight title around the NWA Big Time promotion, winning it in 1983, and actually was the first guy who actually sold his title. It wasn't Ted DiBiase back then. It was Killer Tim Brooks who won it and sold it to Larry Zbyszko. Just a fun fact there. All of us here at the Lime Time Podcast Network send our deepest condolences and prayers to the Brooks family as they go through this very difficult time, especially losing a battle that you try to fight, and especially, cancer is the ultimate C word, and because it gets thrown out around a lot and people battle it more. And, Killer Tim Brooks, I mean, like I say, you wouldn't think, whenever he wasn't world class. And, I mean, that's what I'm mainly known him for is in world class GQ. And, he had a long-spanning career, but, to get his training from Dick Murdoch and the Sheik, definitely improved his ranks, wrestling up Toronto, and then all across the U.S. And
a lot of the world class stuff as well is what I'm familiar with him with. And actually, I think it was about 2 years ago, I did have the chance to sit and talk with him for a while. Came in for a SICW show. And I talked to him for a little bit and just the stories he was telling and everything. And to prove how much of a fighter that he is and everything, he was even mentioning then probably 3 to 6 months that he didn't know if he was going to make it. And that was this was way beyond that. It just shows how much of a strong competitor, strong fighter that he was to make it longer than that. He actually was just honored. I forgot where. I think the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame down in Texas. I think it was this past earlier this year. And they made sure to induct him then. They held off the rest of the class. They wanted to put him in while he was still around because he wanted to make it there for it.
Yeah. And like I said, he definitely did his time, and he definitely paid his dues, and making a name for himself in territories recognized across the nation. And like I said, Killer Tim Brooks is definitely will be missed. Actually, when we talked to Attila, I know he saw him within the last year, meeting up with him, and we want to get a little bit of insight on him whenever, get his insight on Tim Brooks. And, of course, Attila has been around for quite a while, associating himself with major names in this business that definitely earns his respect.
Agreed.
Yep. So definitely a great segment that we got coming up. Now, here's we're gonna merge and we're gonna kind of segue here into something else. We're talking about, of course, with 2020 being a horrible year, around here in the St. Louis area again, we're being put on a mandate to where everybody that goes out in the public area have to wear a mask, and then of course that's going to push everything back, as far as anybody trying to gather. And the thing that's kind of frustrating here is that the entire state of Missouri had opened up. And it is open up, but the city overrules the state's mandate. So while the rest of Missouri pretty much, well, maybe Kansas City is probably on this kind of restriction too, but St. Louis has been on severe lockdown. I swear it's like we're in the largest prison ever, because we can hardly do anything. And so we just...
No, that's not necessarily true, because at least prisons, you have more seating for everything. I mean, when you go out into the places, whether it's, out here in Hollywood, California, or St. Louis or Vegas or anything like that, they're restricting, or at least Vegas are supposed to be, but they're restricting how many seats there are just in restaurants alone. So you have to do every other one. And a lot of places are already changing to the mandate with the stuff now as of today, with a lot of places mandating the wearing of the masks out in any kind of public place whatsoever.
Yeah.
And that's going to impact wrestling majorly.
Yeah, it is. And with that, I want to segue into the question I want to ask and kind of get your take. Could independent wrestling in multiple regions be shut down all the way until, like, the winter of 2021?
Well, we've all known working at times without any kind of pay. So some indies could possibly, if they chose to, do some, like, YouTube or recording shows and everything with no crowd, but what will be the point? Especially even if you're renting the place, it's still a public place, so even the wrestlers really have to have the masks and everything too. So I personally think that, yeah, if it does that, we're not going to have much wrestling at all for the rest of the year or anything.
Yeah, I know. In Illinois is starting to have spikes in cases again. And they're pretty much they're going to be just about as strict as what St. Louis is, and that's about at least half of Illinois, at least half. Well,
not only that, you have Florida, Texas, and Arizona. They had opened up, and they had a rise in all the cases and everything, and now they're closing back down again.
Yeah.
Because it was just too much and everything. And I won't mention like people or anything like that, that would say this or that or whatever. But I've heard people say, well, there's more cases because they're testing more. Yeah, but that means people are getting it more to be tested. I can't, as much money as I have and I can give nurses and doctors left and right, they won't give me a test without me having at least some of the symptoms. If you have all the symptoms and everything, then you would, be qualified to get the testing and everything like that. So, yeah, there's more testing, but there's also more cases because people are actually contracting it and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, like I said, there's more testing that's going on, which means that people have, obviously, people have found out they have actually contracted the virus, but a lot of it is asymptomatic, which means it passes through and they survive it, which means they've got the virus. It's just a form of the flu, and hopefully it'll pass through. My fear is that
there's still a lot though that people are saying with that. That's the fact that people are not wanting to be forced to wear masks or anything like that. But I'm not saying all of them, but most of these people are the same ones that will go out while they're sick anyway because they have to go out or they want to go out,
right? And
everything, and that's where it gets to be. It's a big pain in the ass, but. It's people not giving a shit anyway, and will go out so that's how people are still contracting it and everything.
Yeah, but like I said, we could talk about facts about all this, and then when we got a little story here coming up. But as far as I have a fear, at least here around the St. Louis area, we'd be lucky if we make it till October before we even see a show. Like I said, St. Louis is shutting down again. They're not even giving us a timeline how long they're going to be shut down. So, there's been, I know promotions in Indiana. There's promotions in Tennessee that are going right now. Like I said, there's multiple states, throughout that are trying to run a promotion. Now, how the seating charts are, I have no clue. Are they doing social distancing? I would imagine so, because I would imagine that even as an independent wrestling crowd, you're not going to really pack the house even at this point. So I think it's easy to keep 6 feet away. And then what do you do? What do you do as a wrestler? You got to try to.
Here's the thing, though, too. Should we even be doing it right now? WWE could probably show just a lot of footage, just some highlights, take a break for everybody. Because look at even with WWE, that Adam Pearce just recently contracted COVID.
Right.
He's one of the agents and everything, so he's been traveling with it, and they're still getting it as well too.
Yeah.
Why should anybody put them? That's why I agree with Roman Reigns for one, and not wanting to go out and do this kind of stuff.
Well, of course, we all know that Roman has, he's got. I think that him contracting leukemia twice. He's kind of at a morbidity state.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine. So Roman's got to keep himself locked up, which is fine. And
there's still a lot of people that don't think, because if you're a high risk or anything, you should go out anyway. They just don't care about the money. They don't care about the people to begin with.
Right.
Just saying.
Yeah. Well, this has not really been a good year for McMahon with all this, having to declare bankruptcy on the XFL, and then, of course, dropping about a good part of his roster. And then, now he's got to try to keep shows going at the Performance Center of all places. And, I'm sorry, but that is just getting too boring, man. There's hardly any crowd interaction or anything. And they should just
look at it. If you look at the people that they have in the crowd, it would be good if it's trainees that haven't been on TV or anything before.
Yeah.
But at the last pay-per-view, which one was that again? That was trying to think of the pay-per-view, but you saw Santana Garrett in the crowd wearing a Braun Strowman shirt. I'm like,
oh yeah, that was Extreme Rules. I remember her being in there. Yeah,
and why these people that you're not going to recognize and all this kind of looks, you know how we always complain about people at indie shows going out into the crowd watching the show and all that when they should be in the back watching, you know?
Yeah.
They kind of look like, if it's people you recognize, I mean, why? You know, it's to a point in all this. Can you just like put everybody on temporary hold, furlough everybody right now, have everybody take a break, let this stuff pass, and then try to do it again?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I think McMahon does not want to take the risk because he furloughs everybody. Then it's kind of like, you can't do like what, the end of Nitro. This is your season ending of Monday Night Raw. And we'll be back probably, in 2 months, playing the best of the WWE Network, which is, no one's going to want to tune into that. So he's going to drop ratings. So he's pretty much stuck between a rock and a hard place there. But
well, you know what? Hold on. Can you get somebody on the phone that's in the chat room right now? The last person.
Let me see if I can or not.
Okay.
I will
get him on the phone because he's somebody that just recently did a show, an indie show, and all. It'd be good to have his opinion on how everything was on that real quick.
Okay. Yeah. Let me.
Yeah, you have to try to see if you can find his number. He changes it more than underwear.
Oh Lord. So which means oh, never mind. I'm not going to say
shit. Yeah, let it go.
Let it go.
Let it go.
Yeah, I'm gonna see. We're gonna see here. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So we're going
to start increasing our show stuff when we get do like on the fly stuff like this too. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. Hold on. I have to cut your audio off here for a minute. So hold on. And we're going to have to kind of make this a little short, but we'll see.
Hello.
Oh, hey, buddy. Hey, man. We're talking with the Beast here. Beast was on our second episode. Somebody had a question for you here, bud.
Okay, so you said you just recently did some. Now, did you do shows recently or whatever, or are you being booked for some right now? What was it?
No, I actually did one June 20th out in Indiana, and the promoter had the whole building wiped down, sprayed down with some kind of high-tech sanitizer, did the chairs, did the ground, and then he also had the ring sanitized and the ropes wiped down and everything. The locker room was sterilized and everything.
Now, how was seating done though? Were they still like every 6 inches, as Jen Ross says, or what?
Well, some of the fans came in with masks and gloves on, and then who didn't have none, the building provided them with masks and plastic gloves.
Okay. I mean, and was there like still the spacing in between seats and everything as well?
Actually, no, there was no social distancing, but
okay.
With that being said, the promoter did, follow the rules and regulations with people having masks on and, the latex glove or whatever. He provided all that, whoever didn't have none. Okay. Like I said, the locker room itself, all the guys are 6 feet, 6 feet social distancing.
In other words, the distance when people stand when you eat, stand away when you eat because they don't want to get caught in the crossfire there.
That's correct.
Yeah. But I mean, so was it a decent crowd on it though for up in that area, or?
Yeah, actually, this promotion actually drew at least 90 people.
Wow.
I mean, so this is one of the first indie shows that I've heard happening. That's why I wanted to get him on, Ruby, is the fact that it's one of the first indie shows that I've heard happening. And it's to where, see how that works, which actually goes within this and everything. Is like, so can we keep doing this more, or is it going to cause more problems?
It depends on the promotion and how they actually can go by of doing the social distancing and being sanitizable. I mean, with me, I did provide myself my own hand sanitizer. I brought like 3 or 4 bottles, for myself, and made sure, after I got through wrestling, I carry. You probably laugh at me. I carry, baby wipes that has the disinfectant stuff, and I wipe my body down after the match and stuff. But I felt comfortable with wrestling in the ring itself when I seen these people going before the event started, wiped down the ring, mopped it and everything, straightly sanitized the whole thing. And I've also gotten COVID-19 tested, which came back negative, so I carried that around and showed the promoters, hey, look, I already took the test. But this next event that's coming up, he's going to be taking temperatures at the door.
Okay.
Yeah.
And see, that's the thing. So Illinois has some. I mean, Indiana has a lot of the rules and everything. I know Illinois is still forcing social distancing. Missouri is requiring all this stuff too. So it depends on the promoters, like wanting to take the chance on it too, and if they care enough about the fans and then the wrestlers. I mean, would I love to see a lot of stuff? I would love to see SICW show again, or the debut of IEW and everything. But it's one of those things. It's like, is it safe for everyone first? Because we know there's a lot of promoters that may not be able to do a lot of stuff, or just won't think about it or care.
Yeah, you just basically have to look at these statistics of how high the rate is with the COVID and stuff like that. Where I was actually it was in Bedford, Indiana, the COVID thing was at a very low, beyond, it was low. It wasn't at a high risk or in the yellow or anything. It was the abnormal. It was normal. So they're good about that. But if you go to certain places, it's at that risk of you're liable to catching it. You have to look at all the precautions and the things. You have to look at the statistics and the numbers.
Yeah, and how much of a hotbed the area is for the COVID stuff as well.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, even Ivan was provided a hotel room. And the hotel room, I stayed at the Quality Inn Suites, and they had like everything like sanitized down, wiped down, everything.
Oh, man.
Well, there's been a whole lot of rooms that you stayed in that probably needed to have that before and after. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we don't want. We don't want to get it.
Why you don't carry a portable blacklight in many places anymore? So
true.
Man.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But I've seen a lot of guys, that are bloodthirsty to get back in the ring. My suggestion and thought, to tell any young youth out there or who's been in it 10 or 12 years, take your time. Just, I know everyone's dying to get back in the ring, but take the precautions.
Well, that's the key word. That's the key word. So they're dying to get in the ring, but you don't want them dying from being in the ring.
Right. Play it safe. Play it safe. If you actually do what you're told with the, before it even actually hit the high numbers in certain areas, just do what you're supposed to do. If they say stay in home, which I stayed in my home for the longest, quarantined myself. It's kind of rough, when the wild man beast is walking around with almost a full beard and a full head of hair. That's kind of a scary situation.
Yeah.
Was it the kid in play hair or what?
Yeah. But it was well worth it. I got a lot of things done around the household, with the family, and yes, Beast actually went out in the front yard, did some gardening and stuff. Yeah, so, I'm telling stuff that I really shouldn't tell, but yes, it made
Yeah.
it made me a better person, and I actually got to watch some Netflix, Prime Video, Amazon movies and stuff like that with the family and stuff like that. So it was more for me, more family time instead of being on the road.
Yeah, yeah. Well, at least well, you getting out there. At least people are wanting to go out there, and now we just have to take your precautions. So we wanted to get your take real quick on that, and since we were kind of interested on that, and buddy, I'll tell you what, we got to go for now. But I'll tell you what, just hit us back here in the chat room, and then. Because we're going to be getting Attila here in a few minutes. So,
all right, okay, gentlemen, have a great evening and have a great 4th of July weekend.
All right, you too, buddy. Have a good weekend.
All right, you too, guys. Bye bye.
Bye. All right, that was the beast, guys. So
it does show that. I mean, there's a possibility of it, but can it really be done in effect? I mean, if you don't hear any kind of outbreaks over in that area after that, though, too, or none of the wrestlers have found out they contracted. That's a good thing, but it depends on the areas, though, too.
Yeah.
And with Missouri doing a lot of lockdowns in Illinois, it's hard. I mean, there's so many people. I know, like, SICW's had to cancel so many big events with a lot of the names coming in. Illinois Elite Wrestling has not even debuted yet. I mean, there's so many people that are missing out and craving it so much.
Yeah, no, but
again, like you said, they're dying to get in the ring, but do you want them dying from getting in the ring?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I know. We all got to take our precautions, and we just have to wait. So, all right. So, what we're going to do here is we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to shift gears a little bit. When we come back, we will be on with Attila. So hang tight, guys, and we will be right back. All right, guys. I just want to let you know that we're having a little bit of technical difficulty, but we will be right back here in a couple minutes. We'll try to get this all figured out. So just hang tight. We'll be right back.
Barely. You want me to try calling your number back? If he said anything, I didn't hear him at all. Barely. You want me to try calling back on the number then? Barely. It's like really low still. Yeah. So are you. Yeah. May not be. Want me to just try call your number back and see if we can connect?
All right, guys, guess what? We're finally back. We're working through some technical issues here thanks to my new carrier, who apparently is a piece of garbage, and now I might have to switch back. So great. Thank you very much for calling us once again, or at least hanging here with us once again. I am Rough Cut Rick Ruby here, along with Mr. GQ Matthew Wayne Schuyler III, who's been reading a book here. And
well, yeah, because it's been taking forever to get back from the break there.
I know. I should have done this a little bit better. But I guess
is it still from that chair shot you took back in the day? I mean,
yeah, I don't think
went in like a dolphin. I mean,
yeah, went in like a dolphin. Yeah, well, we're going to bring in our guest of the night here as we progress further here. There we go. All right, our featured guest here for us here tonight has been wrestling well over 25 years. He's been across the Midwest under many personas. His latest persona proves to be the most brutal and the most gory of characters that at least I've ever seen in the Midwest area. Winning, of course, multiple championships across the area, and just a great talent overall. And, of course, we're going to talk about his crowning achievements as well toward the end of this segment. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Attila Khan. Attila, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. Hey, thanks for having me, Rick. I appreciate it. Mr. GQ, I see you up there. That's a great book you got in your hands.
Well, one of the parts I'm reading about, it sounded like an explosion when you hit him with a chair shot. And now it explains a lot of our problems we're having on the show sometimes, I think.
I'll tell you what, I've thrown a lot of chairs in over 25 years, and I would rate the one that bounced off Rough Cut Rick Ruby's head probably at the top. And I describe it in the book as he came at me like a dolphin out of the water.
And just how bad it was, it says in here, I was down in the locker room changing and watching Ruby stare off into space. He had been knocked a little goofy from the chair shot. In fact, someone else drove him home that night. He's still a little goofy.
Yeah.
That was back in the day when those chair shots to the head. If you put your hands up, you were a sissy, and so you were taught. Those were unprotected, and I mean, you put that head up there. So I told Ruby going upstairs. I said, "Hey, this was going to be solid." I said, "If you put your hands up there, I'll probably end up breaking your hands with it. So just give me your head." And he did. He sure did.
I still don't know why I think that was a good idea back then. I was like, okay, so he might break my hands, so I'm just going to stick my head out there and hopefully I don't get my skull cracked. Well, I don't think I got my skull cracked, but I got a lot of screws knocked loose. I'll tell you that right now. I just...
Your head turned to jello on the inside. I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, so those are one of the most notable moments here of his career, and I'm glad at least I can give somebody something to remember by, Hey, but at least I didn't wuss out. I'll tell you that right now. That's
no, you did not.
Yeah, you can't. You can't wuss out in the business like this, at least the way that we were doing here. So, we're gonna we're gonna pan back toward the beginning.
Move on now.
Yeah, we'll get back to the beginning of where it all began here. But me and GQ were touching off at the beginning of the hour with Killer Tim Brooks and and how you got a chance to talk with him during the within the last year that he was here, how did your visit go with him? I mean, were there stories that you didn't know about him during the conversation that you had with them, or you know?
Yeah, I tell you what, God rest his soul. The killer did so much for this business, had been around for so long, and the relationship that he had with Bruiser Brody, for one, is known all over the world. And getting to visit with him, we sat there and we talked, and we told stories about Brody. We told Harley race stories, and just we're both veterans, and so we shared that. We talked to each other, and then sometime throughout the night we took pictures together and stuff like that. But he got a big kick out of the boots that I wear as Attila. It's got the big curled toe on the end of it, and he said he used to tease Abdullah and the Iron Sheik that the reason those hooks were there is so that you could squat to go to the bathroom and you held onto those hooks to keep yourself from falling. And he thought that was he thought that was a great joke, and we laughed. And what was so funny, I mean, he was such a kind individual. An hour, 2 hours passed after he told the joke. He came up to me again. He said, "Hey, I just wanted to make sure that that I was joking about that. That wasn't meant to be me." And I'm like, "Killer, I got a big kick out of it. I think it's hilarious, But he wanted to make sure that nobody was upset. And just a great individual and a real loss to the wrestling world. Prayers for his family. He fought a long time.
Yeah. Like I said, I mean, battles with cancer are just the hardest, to stick it out, and then trying to trying to get yourself better. But some people go a good while with them, and then and then of course things happen, But at least 70, living to be 72. I mean, still is not a bad, not a bad life either. But it's just
he had a good run. It was just a tough finish.
Yep, exactly. Good run and a tough finish, exactly. So, but we'll turn our attention to you in regards to. When did you know that you wanted to be a professional wrestler? Around what kind of made you see the light? Was it it was point in your childhood or something, or what happened? What made you want to be a pro wrestler?
To be honest, I had always been a wrestling fan as far back as I can remember. I always watched it growing up in the St. Louis area. Of course, I was. I'm old enough that I can remember wrestling at the Chase very vividly, and tuning in and watching so many greats on there. But in that day and age, becoming a professional wrestler, as a kid, you'd have thought you had a better chance to walk on the moon than be a professional wrestler. I mean, it was just that closed of a society, and My first live event was really the changing thing for me, and that happened in 1983. It was Ric Flair versus King Kong Brody at the Checker Dome, I can remember going and just the atmosphere and seeing Brody stomp to the ring and Ric Flair strut to the ring, and I was like, man, that would be a dream if I could ever do that, if I could ever be a part of that. And as I got a little bit older, a good family friend of ours introduced me to Pat O'Connor. And the former NWA champion, Pat O'Connor, was a very close friend of the family. We celebrated holidays together. We had Thanksgiving dinners together. And Pat really kind of took me under his wing as I was going through high school and became very close. And he passed away actually when I was in Marine Corps boot camp in 1990. I went and visited with him right before I left, and he had cancer as well. And I knew then that I would never see him again. And he passed away right before I graduated boot camp that summer. You know, and so fast forward, you know, I stayed a fan. And then when in early 1994, I moved back to St. Louis from the Marine Corps and was actually going to a Cardinals game. And we drove by the South Broadway Athletic Club. And they had, you know, on the marquee, just like they still do to this day, you know, pro wrestling this Saturday or Saturday night and whatever date it would be. And I said, man, I'd really like to go to that. And I was with my dad and my brother. And so I said, all right, let's take it in. Let's see what it's about. And it was that night that I made the first steps. Just, you know, so many of us, you sit in the audience and you watch it. You want to be a part of it. And it had been a dream forever. And the relationship with O'Connor, you know, O'Connor introduced me to Harley Race when I was probably 12 years old. It was the first time I met Harley Race. And Dusty Rhodes, the Road Warriors, all those guys. You know, I'm meeting them as a kid. But, you know, I was sitting in the audience that night, and I looked over at my dad, and I said, I can do this. And he's like, you're crazy. And I said, well, I said, I might be crazy, but I can do this. I can do this. And of all people, I saw Dump Truck Dave Perry, a friend of all of ours. Believe it or not, the dump truck was heading to the bar to get a beer. And
No.
yeah, believe it or not. And so I went up to the dump truck, and like so many of us have heard from so many people before, I walked up and I said, hey, man, I said, I want to be a pro wrestler. And, you know, I've probably heard that, I don't know, several 100,000 times in my life from somebody. And there's only been one or two, you know, that does it. And he said, well, if you want to, and he told me where everybody worked out for Broadway. He said, you come in there on Monday night, and you'll talk to Tony Costa, who at that point all I knew was a little guy that looked like Gene Wilder with curly hair smoking cigarettes. You know, so that was the night that it all started, really. And that was, you know, the cover of the book, Blood Tables and Chairs. That's why I put Dave Perry on the front of that book with me, because if it wasn't for him taking the time to speak to me that night, none of this may have ever happened. And so it was, you know, I felt like I owed that to him, to put him up front with me, because without him, I wouldn't have ever got there.
Yeah. Dump truck. Well, I'll tell you what. I saw him live a few times in the early '90s, and man, just a crazy individual. I mean, the toughest, roughest guy that wore all pink, and man, it's and you know, and you didn't tell him anything about it. You let him do his thing. You know.
Yeah,
I actually saw some of the Pete Parisi stuff and everything, and all the other stuff when out and about in St. Louis, and I'm just watching him. I'm like, if he's not legitimately nuts, he sells a good gimmick. I mean,
I'll tell you what, that picture that's on the cover of that book, that night I had worked with Dave, and we wanted to do a tribute to Bruiser Brody, just our own tribute. You know, we wanted a Brody style match. So we went out into the crowd. We went up into the concession stand. There was so much blood. There was a kid that threw up. They were crying. I mean, it was a mess. I mean, it was right up at, you know, the Dave Perry alley. And the thing about Dave is you couldn't hit him hard enough to satisfy him. You know, you'd climb up to do the 10 bells, you know, 10 punches to the head. And every punch, he'd tell you harder. And I mean, by about the fourth or fifth punch, I'm teeing off on him as hard as I can hit him. And he's just going, yeah, brother, yeah. And the way we went home that night, the way we finished the match that night, is I took a chair, very reminiscent, and it happened way before The Rock did it to Mick Foley. I beat Dave with a chair from standing all the way down to his knees. And then he was on his knees, and I would swing the chair, and I'd hit him in the front of the head, in the face, and he had bent over backwards, and he had raised back up. And we continued to do this until I busted the seat out of the chair. There was blood squirting out each side, and we busted all the rivets out of the chair.
Oh, man.
And when he could no longer set up, that was the finish. But he just kept saying, hit me again. I probably hit him 25 times. And that picture was taken in the locker, and we walked back there, and he was waiting, to hug me. And he was like, that was the greatest thing I've ever been in. It's awesome. And I'm like, dude, I almost killed you. I almost literally beat you to death in front of the crowd.
Wow.
But he is a unique individual.
Yeah, that he is. And it's I mean, I've heard stories, but man, that's definitely one I've not heard. And the guy to ask for that much punishment, holy crap. Definitely
and loved it. Loved every minute of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I loved my chair shot, but I was too busy being concussed trying to finish a match. But that's okay, buddy.
You still are, Ruby. I'm just saying.
I mean, things happen. I mean, it happens. And
Sure.
Looking for birds. Wonder why the chirps are still chirping. So,
somebody answer the phone.
Right. Oh my. So, with your training and all that, let's see. So the Marine Corps, you say you went, what years did you serve in the Marine Corps?
I was in the Marine Corps from 1990 to 94.
1994, okay.
Yeah, I left for boot camp 3 days after I graduated high school. I was 17 years old.
Yeah.
And about 2 weeks before I graduated boot camp, Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait. And so I graduated boot camp. I went to combat school. I went to infantry school. And 6 months to the day after I graduated high school, I landed in the combat zone. And I did a combat tour in Desert Storm at 18 years old.
Jeez.
And came back to the United States and served the rest of my time. Got to travel the world. Went through jungle warfare school, mountain warfare school, cold weather training. Was biological and chemical training. Was in the Marine Corps infantry, so I mean that's what you do. And was stationed out in 29 Palms, California, in the middle of the Mojave Desert, where it gets a nice 120, 125, 130 degree weather this time of year.
Oh man. Yeah, and well, was that mostly dry heat? I mean, there was probably no humidity out there to speak of.
No, it was all dry heat, and we always made jokes because they'd say, "Oh, it's a dry heat, not like Missouri where it's humid." I said, "Well, your oven's a dry heat too, but you don't stick your head in it." And so it was. I always said I spent 4 years at the beach, but they forgot to bring the water. We just got the sand. And then I came back, and that was within the first couple weeks of being out. I backed that up. It was about a month after I was out that I saw the sign at Broadway, because I got out and actually went to the police academy. And it was right after I graduated the academy that we saw the sign at Broadway.
Yeah.
And the training started, in the old annex building there, and that was, I was so fortunate at the time. Well, I say fortunate at the time when I came in. had just missed the territory days where there had been some good money to probably be made or whatever.
Right.
But the talent that was at Broadway at the time, my trainers, Johnny Jett, Keith Smith, John Blackheart, Pete Madden, Big Ben, Frankie D. Almost every one of those guys are Hall of Famers, and was just so fortunate. I mean, that was the crew that trained me, and it was something that the first night that I showed up after talking to Dump Truck, I got there early, and Johnny Jett pulled up, and I thought, well, hell, that's the good guy from last Saturday. I'm a good guy. He'll be happy to see me. And he may have been one of the most rude individuals that I'd ever encountered in my life. And that's kind of how it was in the business when you were, back in that day. Because I thought, man, I'm going to end up whipping this guy's ass before we get inside, and they're not even going to let me in there. And it's funny because after that and through the years, everybody knows the relationship that Johnny Jett and I have, and I was the best man in his wedding, and he's one of my very best friends. But it got off to a rocky start, and also back in that day, the training was a lot different. It wasn't open arms and a warm welcome for everybody that walked through the door.
Right.
I mean, they literally, Pete Madden, John Blackheart, all those guys, Keith Smith, holy cow. I mean, they would just beat the hell out of me night in and night out for weeks. And, I'd leave there mad because I was like, I just got out of the Marine Corps. I got this, I'm definitely an alpha personality type guy. And I'm taking this abuse week after week. And I'm like, man, I'm getting fed up with this. But at the time, they did that to see who was going to stay. And after several weeks of just basically getting my ass kicked, I walked in one night, and Keith and Johnny Jett looked at me, and they said, okay, now we're going to teach you to work. And that's really where the real training started,
Yeah.
And there is so much that I still think that they should have training more like that half the time nowadays. I mean, we talk like a lot of the guys that don't go beyond a year or even past like 6 months and everything, and you just wasted the time on it to begin with. And it's not an easy business to deal with by no means whatsoever. And if you build somebody that tough and everything, that's how they survive into this business.
Absolutely. And I think there's a big misconception today. There's a lot of times, especially us old guys, the old veterans and all this stuff, they're like, well, they hate the new guy. They hate the new generation. And that's not the case, because we all started with a dream, and we all started being greener than grass. But the difference is, there was guys like Ed Smith standing outside the training ring, and Tony Costa and the Giant Assassin and guys like that would tell you, hey, man, that ain't worth a crap. That isn't good. Or you don't have what it takes. You could not be thin-skinned in that day. And that's the thing. Wrestling has been such a huge part of my life. I've made my best friends. I've had my greatest accomplishments. All that comes through this business, and this business means very much to me. And if you want to be a part of that, I want you to have the same level of respect that I have for it. That the people, work all the years I worked for Harley Race, and the relationships with Haku and different ones through the years, that level of respect, And when you're going out and you're doing what a lot of the stuff that I see online and different things, that's not a respect of the business. I'm not telling you to quit. I'm not telling you to go away. I'm telling you just do it right. Get trained,
Right.
Be trained at what you do. Be a professional. There's a difference between you can be in the wrestling business for 20 years and not be a professional wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Exactly. So, I mean, obviously you've had a rough road. So, how long? I mean, I know you had multiple weeks before, they were kind of grinding you down, testing your will, which honestly, to me is the best. To me, it's the best way because you definitely have to have a thick skin in this business, in that aspect, because it's not ballet when you get in those ropes.
Right.
So after you had gotten your beat down and you got trained, how long for the process from you just getting beat to the point where you actually you got your first match? About how long of training did you have before they let you?
Yeah, it was probably 9 to 10 months, almost a year.
Wow.
Almost a year. And I can remember I felt like I was getting somewhat close. I just didn't know for sure. And
Yeah.
I remember Tony Costa walked in one night when we were all working out, and he's got a poster, and it's got my picture on it. And he says, "You're wrestling. You're on the card this month." And I was going to work the Ninja, and I'm like, "Who the hell is the Ninja?" And it was Pete Madden, and it was one of my trainers, being Pete Madden, who, in my opinion, is the most probably gifted individual I've ever been in the ring with. And I've been in the ring with a lot of people. But Pete Madden is that good. And so they wanted to make sure the rookie had somebody, that could get him through a match. And so like I said, it was almost a year. And once I had that first match, they actually put me, and this is unheard of for a rookie, I went on a win streak for multiple months in a row. And they built it as, this Marine Corps drill instructor, the DI, and he was undefeated. And they built that towards matches eventually with John Blackheart, and then eventually the Giant Assassin. Mm-hmm. And I made that transition from being the opening match, first match rookie, within about 5 to 6 months. I had started working my first main events at that time. And I will tell you, the first night I worked the main event was with the Giant Assassin, and it's the only time in my entire career, but I threw up on the way to the show. I was so nervous that I threw up before I got there. And, for the guys that know me, I don't get too worked up. I'm not a real nervous type guy, but that one got me. And quick story on that, I walked into the locker room that night, the Giant Assassin was sitting back in his corner. And I walk in, he goes, "Come here, kid." And I walk over there, and on his tape, he has little stick figures drawn. And they look like wrestlers, little stick, and they're doing wrestling moves. And he told me, he said, "If you get lost, start on my right arm and do everything that's on the tape. Then switch to the left arm, and when you get back to my hand, we're going to go home." So.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, he says.
And I tell you what, Ruby, the Assassin gave me a chair shot, probably equivalent to the one I gave you. Actually knocked me out, and when I hit the ground, my head bounced and it woke me up. And that week actually led me to my first serious injury in the business. Basically, the doctor said, that would have been probably 2 concussions, but it happened right at the same time. And it was on a Saturday night. On a Sunday, we wrestled, I think the old bar was Big Texas or whatever that was.
Yeah.
Yeah. took a chair shot that day on Sunday, and then Monday night, Ty Dalton hit me with a drop kick, hit me in the chin, knocked me out, fell, hit my head on the ring jack that was holding the ring up. And they said I got up and I wrestled for like another 20 minutes. And then I asked, it was Johnny Jett and the Magic Man, they were all there, and they said after about 20 minutes, I asked them, are we going to start working out? And they're like, uh-oh. And my next memory, I woke up in the hospital, and I could see my dad, a doctor, and like 4 security guards. And I was sitting on a bed with no shirt on. And I thought, this is not good. And I had lost everything from the previous Thursday to that really Tuesday morning. And it's never come back. That was the first series of concussions. The doctor told me then to quit wrestling. And I said, well, that's not going to happen. And it was
right.
it was pretty unique because I watched the video of the Giant Assassin and I's match, and I didn't know who was going to win because I didn't remember it. So I got to watch one of my matches like everybody else. I didn't know the outcome.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Wow, that is crazy. I mean, whew. Yeah, what so I know that you started down in Broadway, and you've had your time there. I know when I was getting in at 96, I mean, and boy, I'll tell you, hearing your training stories now, I kind of feel relieved to know that I mean, I would have done the 9 to 10 months if I found a way to get down there, but I happened to stumble across Big Texas like just after my 21st birthday watching the show, and then that's how I got in. And then of course you. And,
I remember when you started.
Yeah, I know. Some moons ago, and I mean, I was this 21-year-old kid just trying to get in and try to live his dream, and all I can remember is when I'm trying to drain, watching all these shows and doing security, I'm seeing is the All-Americans versus Bodily Harm, and everywhere we go. So
well, let's be honest. You weren't seeing the match much. You were seeing just blood in front of you. Because those matches went all over the place. They were bloodbaths, but they had fun back then too. So,
oh yeah,
it was the matches. When we came to work at the time, it went by several different names. There was Central States Wrestling, Rampage Wrestling. There was a plethora of names.
Heartland.
Yes, Heartland. There was, and we started doing the All-Americans versus Bodily Harm. And I mean, that run, and that lasted for a few years. We took that all over the Midwest and packed every building that we were in. And it was just such a great time. And so much, just so much fun, really. I mean, it took a toll on your body. Just this week, one of my daughters came up behind me. She goes, "What's that big scar on your back?" And I said, "Well, I went through a table up in Boonville, and the metal band landed straight up in the ring, and it went into my back like a cookie cutter."
Oh.
And just, but those were some crazy matches. I mean, within 60 seconds, all 4 people were bleeding, and there was already tables and chairs broke.
Yeah. So obviously, I mean, knowing about your relationship with Johnny Jett, I mean, from the first guy that you thought was going to be nice to you, ended up turned out to be real, but then eventually you got out to be a good good relationship after that. So, were the All-Americans pretty much the only tag team that you had really formed on a regular basis? I mean, when you started out with that, I mean, and I guess you'd probably consider Johnny Jett your your best and only tag partner that you had then.
Yes, that's I have done that random tag match here and there throughout the 26 plus years. But I've always considered my only tag partner as being Johnny Jet and being part of the All Americans.
Yeah.
And, we like I said, we took it all over. We took it, into many other states, and that was, there were promoters that's how they booked us. We weren't getting booked as singles. It was booked. They wanted the All Americans to come in, and there was places we went in Tennessee. The first night they were there, they're like, "Hey, we're putting the belts on," and I'm like, "I don't even know who you are." Do you get to make that call? But
right.
That's how we were getting booked, was as the All Americans.
Yeah, I guess you guys had a good run for at least about a couple of years, maybe a few. I know you probably.
Johnny Jet was a hell of a lot better than when he teamed up with DC from Stephen DC. So
that was me. That was me.
No, yeah. I said Johnny Jet was a better partner than when you teamed up with DC.
Oh, yes. These, I don't know how else to say this, but DC possibly is the most unathletic person I'd ever met in my life, and that whole thing. I was actually going to training. I was a police detective. And I was going to training, and I'm listening to Stephen D.C.'s show, and I hear Al Stevens call in, and he's talking trash. And so at the time, there was not cell phones, so I got to the academy, and I got to the payphone, and I called in, and I'm like, "Hey, listen, you got Al Stevens on the other line. I'm the drill instructor, I'm a professional wrestler." And that's how that whole thing started. And so they did a build-up for several months. They would have me call in, and I would give updates on DC's training, which I had never met the guy. I take that back. We did the water park, so they knew us. They knew who we were. And, I would call in and I'd give these reports, which he never trained. And so finally, the night before the match, I kind of said, "Look, you have got to get into the ring just so you know how to step through the ropes, and so I gave DC a whole drill instructor outfit. He had the whole set of my ring attire. And I remember my dad went to the training with me, and DC's dad had brought him. And DC's dad was scared to death that we were going to kill him. And I'm like, he'll be fine. He just has to listen to me. He's got to do like one or two things. I got the rest of it. And, they broadcast that nationwide. And it was because they were syndicated coast to coast. And it was crazy, the amount of calls, people that I had went to high school with, whatever, that had listened to the show. And they're like, "Oh my God, that's the guy I went to high school with that's doing this." It was good, but my gosh, DC is not an athletic person.
Oh my God!
I remember seeing that early morning, like a 6-7 a.m. show, and I was just starting in the business at the time myself, and I'm like, I am so glad I don't have to set this stuff up to begin with.
Oh my God, no!
And then I'm like watching this is like, this is fun, and then I'm watching that match and like, what the hell?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's like every time you got in, it's like I was actually enjoying the match. Every time DC got in, it's like, take this home. I mean, so.
Yeah. I mean that. I remember that morning clear as day too, because holy crap, that was. I was there. I mean, because I actually had the privilege of jerking that freaking entire morning card. So here I am going out the curtain. I'm going out the curtain at 7:15 in the morning to put a freaking match with Brian James. Has probably been ironically, it's probably one of the best I've ever had with Brian ever. And and we got that crowd going. to start things off. So
There was a hell of a crowd there for being bright and early in the morning.
Oh yeah, and
I had nothing to do that morning. That's why I went though too. So
yeah. Oh, the days in the Arnold Eagles where the yellow rope didn't mean a damn thing to the city of Arnold, Missouri. So. Except for that day, though. Except for that day, but 3 other shows they didn't care. But alcohol will do wonderful things. Like forget where you are.
Right.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Fans are wrestlers. I'm just asking.
Oh yeah. Right. So, so after your run, basically through that, I know that late '98 or whatever is when Harley started developing World Legion Wrestling at the time, and
right.
And then starting out in Springfield, and then eventually end up being World League Wrestling. So, as far as your time there, I mean, I know you were WLW champion. I don't know who the first champion was. But I tried to get in there at the first thing. I mean, I don't know if we're just counting Steve Sharp as the first one, but
I think he was.
Yeah.
I know he was the World Legion champion.
Yeah.
And he may have been the first World League champion.
And he set the smoke detectors off too.
Yeah, I was gonna say the only.
Yes.
The only man with pyros to make the sprinklers go off, and everything had to shut down for a bit. Then the fire marshal had to go clear everything out before we start taping again. But yeah,
right.
Poor Gordon Soley had to sit through all that garbage.
And
Oh,
it was only about 4 packs of cigarettes and 15 gin and tonics later. That was a nice break for Gordon.
Oh my God! You gotta love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The run with Harley, that really changed my career, and it really changed the trajectory of a lot of stuff. And going down there, because we were initially booked as the All Americans, is how they brought us in. And after the first taping, Harley really took a liking to me, and right after that is when they matched me up against the Iron Sheik, and they kind of promoted it like a Sergeant Slaughter Iron Sheik match. And that World Legion at the time, we really thought that was the big thing. I remember the first time pulling up that building, all the satellite trucks are there. They're beaming stuff out all over. Dave Marquez was involved, who's now, highly involved with the NWA product. And, it really, we thought, man, this is it. And it only lasted a few months, and they closed. And we thought, man, now what do we do? I came back here, and I did some more independent stuff around the Midwest for different organizations at that time, and one day my phone rings at the house, and I pick it up, and it's Harley Race on the other end of the line. And I mean, it's a voice that you don't mistake for anybody else's. Yep. And he said he was inviting me down to be a part of World League Wrestling. He had bought it, and it was going to be his organization. And so I was there literally from day one of World League Wrestling. And the opportunities that came with that run was just amazing. They really started to focus at that time on me as a singles wrestler, vice a tag team. I mean, me and Jet did some tags stuff early on with World League Wrestling, but Harley wanted to push me as a singles. And man, I'll tell you what, over the next several years, went on a run. The list of names that I got to share the ring with is just amazing. And I developed some very good friendships out of that. Haku has become one of my very best friends in the business. We talk almost daily, at least text or message. Big Ron Harris, had the opportunity to wrestle Hacksaw Butch Reed. I don't know how many times. In fact, when I won the belt, it was with Hacksaw. He was the champion, and it was a three-way match, me, Hacksaw, and Ron Harris. Got to see the emergence of a young Trevor Rhodes at the time, later to be Trevor Murdoch, and I remember when they were kids coming in, like superstar Steve Fender,
Yep.
Matt Murphy, Derek McQuinn, Derek Stone was another guy that was there. It was just a group of amazing people, and then being involved with Harley, the connections that came from that it would be hard to really put into words. And also during that time is when I developed a friendship with Harley. Started realizing that, the weeks of shows that he would, hey, I want you to come to the house. You can stay with me and my wife here at the lake, and you can ride to the show with me. And at the time, nobody else was doing that. And so I got to spend countless hours, in that car one-on-one with Harley Race. And that's what I always tell people that, I knew how to wrestle before I went to WLW. I said, but I learned the business when I got there. And it was, the countless hours with Harley, the countless hours with Haku, and people like that, learning the business of wrestling. And,
Yeah.
It was just a phenomenal experience going down there. They got me, my opportunities when I worked with the WWF at the time, which is a funny story. Harley during that period would call me usually 2 to 3 times a day. I would get phone calls from Harley Race, and we would talk about different shows or a different angle, or he'd tell me what he wanted. And so I had just got off a midnight shift, and my phone rang like at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I get that, Danny, it's Harley. Well, no kidding. Obviously it's Harley. And he says, tells me the WWF is going to be in town on Monday night. Do you want to work? And in my midnight, sleep-deprived mind, I thought he said, do you want to go? Because we used to, my wife and I would go with him and BJ, and whenever they were in town, or if we were staying at the lake with them that weekend and they were in Columbia or whatever, we would go in the locker room and visit with people. And I said, yeah, I'll go. And hung up. Basically, that was the end of the conversation. And I lay there in bed for a couple minutes, and I went, I don't think that's what he said. And the phone rang again. He's like, do you understand what I'm saying to you? And I'm like, no, I don't think I do. He goes, they want you to have a match. And I was going to be on Monday Night Raw. And I said, I'm there. And it was funny, because a lot of times when you're brought in, you're going to do a dark match, whatever it might be, you're one of the boys, but you're not one of the boys,
not one of their boys or whatever, basically.
Right. And when I walked in, the first thing they did is they pulled a rib on me with the Undertaker as soon as I walked in the door. I get there, and we had to be there like at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and they're like, you need to, take yourself to the locker room. It's through that door. Okay. You're going to listen to whatever they say. So I walked through the door, and it's basically it's a individual's dressing room, and that individual happened to be the Undertaker. And I opened the door, and I realized at that point what I've done. You know, I've been had, I've been ribbed, they got me. The Undertaker stands up, you know, and he turns around, he looks at me, and I'm thinking, boy, what a great way to start. And he sticks out his hand, and he goes, Mark Calloway, the Undertaker. And I thought, well, hell. I go, Dennis McCaw is the drill instructor, you know. I didn't know what else to say. And he goes, I take it they told you this was a locker room. And I said, yeah, they did. He said, you're about the fifth guy that they've sent in here today. and so he goes, you can stay if you'd like to. And I go, no, I appreciate the invitation, but I'll go on back out that door, you know, and I go out the door and everybody's laughing. They got me. But what was really special about that is right after that, Haku, who was working back with the WWF at the time, comes up, gives me a hug, and he says, come on, I'm going to take you to introduce you to people. And so the treatment that I received, it was much different than probably a lot of people's experience. You know, when you're led around the locker room by Haku and he introduces you, this is Harley's guy. He's my friend. This is Harley's guy. This is my brother. People are going to treat you different, you know, because you just had Haku drop Harley's name to introduce you. From that point on, I was like one of the boys, you know, and
it's one of those things you don't really argue with Haku no matter what. He didn't have to drop Harley's name. If you're a friend of Haku's, who's going to stand up and say, fuck that, or to that, or whatever? It's like, look at that.
Yeah.
He'll kill you with a blink of an eye. I mean, so.
Yeah. You know, and so it was, you know, they ended up taking me out to SmackDown the next night. You know, I actually roomed with Haku, and, you know, we went and had dinner after the show with, you know, our table was Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, Perry Saturn, Tori Runnels. You got to, you know, Eddie Guerrero bought me my last shot of tequila that I've ever taken because I don't drink tequila. But Eddie Guerrero bought it. And then he put me on the phone with Chavo. He's like, tell Chavo, you know, you got to work with us this week. I'm like, Eddie, he has no idea who I am. Trust me. And he's like, no, you need to talk to him. And, oh, okay. You know, but it was, you know, and that was the whole WLW ride, was really just some of the best memories that I have in the business, and the friendships that I made during that time. And, you know, I've had a lot of conversations since then with Trevor and Steve, you know, since Harley's passed. And, it was funny. We were all chasing a dream at that time. And Trevor really summed it up. He goes, what we didn't realize is we had made it, you know, with that time and that relationship with Harley and the friendships and the experiences. So, I mean, it was a great run. It was a great run.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like I said, countless names. I mean, you know, hear those stories. I mean, with Haku, especially the one with the Undertaker, and oh my goodness. I mean, there was just quite a few. I mean, you know, I'm sure, you know, you've been in the ring with Cowboy Bob Orton, of course, with Trevor Murdoch, you did mention. And then, of course, we'll get into you know, with recently within a year or so with an ECW original Tommy Dreamer. But who would you say was your favorite opponent to wrestle against?
During that time, Haku would have to be towards the very top. Bob Orton, I couldn't tell you how many times that I've been in there with Bob, who was just fantastic. But I would probably put Haku at the top. Steve Fender, for one of our WLW core group of guys, was one of my favorites to be in the ring with. And I would also, during that time, was when I got to wrestle Abdullah the Butcher. And so Abdullah would be definitely towards the top. And it's funny, because I didn't know at the time how important the Abdullah influence was going to become to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, Haku was your best, and I've heard I heard he could be a tough customer inside the ring too. He doesn't pull any punches in regards to that.
And the thing with Haku, a lot of guys, I think, and rightfully so, are intimidated by Haku. And the thing is, you can't, when you work with Haku, you cannot be intimidated, because if you're intimidated, you're going to make mistakes, or you're going to look weak or soft. And if you make him look weak or soft, the night just went really bad. And so you realize how good he is. A man that size and strength and the ability that he has. I mean, you can just go in there, and he's just one of those guys. You can just get with it and know that you're going to blow the roof off the place.
Yeah. And definitely a real life tough customer for certain too. So him and a Barbarian.
And I'd have to throw another one on that list. I'd have to throw in there would be the Barbarian as well.
Yeah. Barbarian. He's definitely a tough as nails too. Definitely with with his runs with the Warlord, and of course also with the Powers of Pain and
well, let me go on. I'm going to ask this.
Yeah.
Did you witness ever, while hanging out with Haku and everything, did you ever witness the true stories of how much of a tough guy he is? That you can tell without ticking him off.
Yeah. I'll tell you one of the most recent ones that I saw. It was last year at Cauliflower Alley. And Keith Smith witnessed this one, because I introduced Keith to Haku when we got out there. And we're standing there at the end of the banquet. It's me and Keith, and we're standing there with Haku and Barb, the Barbarian. And some guy comes up and he interrupts our conversation. And he interrupts it to tell Haku how he knows about his Samoan heritage. Well, he's not Samoan; he's Tongan, right? And he's a very proud Tongan. And so that started off bad. And he cuts this guy off. He said, "So are you going to stand there and interrupt my conversation to sit and tell me about a heritage that you don't know anything about, right?" And he's starting to get a little fired up. And Ricky Santana, who I've got to become very good friends with as well, we're all like, "Oh boy, this is going to be one of those stories," And we kind of shuffled this guy off. He had a camera and stuff, and I mean, I don't know if he was a photographer for somebody or what it was. And I mean, he's the real deal. And I can tell you, kind of a Haku toughness story that we thought we all got a kick out of. So we're at the Lake of the Ozarks. We're in for a WLW show, and we all go out to a bar to shoot pool. And I'm shooting pool. It's myself and Haku. I believe Trevor was there. And possibly Dustin Rhodes was there as well. But the main person that was new coming in was Bam Bam Bigelow. And so we're all shooting pool. And somebody runs over and grabs myself and Haku and whatever, and they're like, there's a guy trying to pick a fight with Bam Bam. You guys need to get over there. And so we get over there, and Harley has already made it to Bam Bam. And we're trying to tell this guy, trying to tell Bam Bam, hey, this guy just wants you to beat his ass because it's going to be a badge of honor. He's going to say that Bam Bam Bigelow beat my ass, and then he's going to sue you, So this is not good. And so we kind of talked Bam Bam down off the ledge, and Haku steps up and clears everybody out. And we get outside because it's time to leave at this point, obviously. And Bam Bam's still kind of worked up, and we get him calmed down. And he's got that Brooklyn accent, right? He's like, Harley, why does that guy want to fight me? And Harley with a straight face looks at him and goes, because you're a pussy. That's why. And, I was like, oh, dear God. And, I mean, like, Bam Bam, attacked the building, right? We're trying to get Bam Bam in the car. But, I saw Haku kind of, he dispersed everybody that night as well. And he definitely has a voice that will disperse the crowd.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Ooh. So we're going to we're going to come back to the book, actually, with the blood tables and chairs. So with the book here, obviously it released in 2010, and going over reflecting over your career at that time. So I guess you have to say you probably had about 14 or 15 years experience in, but a lot of great experience though. So, what inspired you to release your wrestling experience of that much in paperback? What got you started to want to write the novel or write the book?
Well, it was as I was going through it, I was starting to take some notes and stuff because honestly, I realized how blessed I'd been, how fortunate I was, and the career that I had to that point, and the people that I had been involved with, and the stories, because people would always be like, can you tell me a Harley story? Tell me this, tell me that, And so at that point, I thought, man, I'm going to start, keeping notes on this. And the book was really a labor of love. It took me, I released it, I think it was 2010.
Yeah.
But I first put the pen to paper in 2004 is when I started writing it. And I would write and I'd put it on the shelf for months. And we just kept plugging away on it. And it was when it finally came out, and, at the time it was being carried in Borders and B. Dalton and all those bookstores that were still alive at that time.
Right.
And the response was really good. It's funny, the book's been out for 10 years, and I still sell a couple copies a month on Amazon. They still send me that, 55, 75-cent royalty check, and you sold another one in the United Kingdom, type thing. But it still sells to this day. And it was funny when I first published it, Larry Matisick actually helped me. I gave the first rough draft to Larry, and he read it. He's like, man, I really like it. And he took it. I believe it was the ECW Press at the time. And they came back and they said, we want more dirt. And I refused to do that. And I said, these are people that I've traveled with, roomed with, people that I've been around. They're my friends. I said, I'll tell you all the stories you want to know on me, but I'm not, I'll tell stories, but I'm not going to let out the secrets type deal. And
yeah.
So they refused to publish it, they was like, Larry came back and he goes, "It's very honorable for you to say that." And I said, I'm not going to do it, Larry. And so we self-published through Amazon, and it's been before Larry had passed away. We talked about adding. I said, I'm thinking I'd like to write another one, and this one be about Attila, the Attila Khan character. And Larry's like, "Don't work so hard. Just write more and add it to this book. Re-release what you already have. Make it the deluxe edition, and sell it again." But I was fortunate with the book. Harley would let me come into WLW and sell the book, and it was always, "If you'll guest referee, or if you'll do this for me, I'll let you set up and sell your book at my show." And so it was a great experience. And like I said, it's for a book that's been out for so long. I still see copies of it all the time, and people ask about it. And so it's something that I'm very proud of.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I said, I took a read. It's been a while since I actually took a read through it, but I mean, just a lot of good stuff in there. And I guess, like I said, I was going to ask on the second half. I mean, would you ever consider, since you're on a new persona now, and I guess. Obviously, you would have to keep making notes, or at least reflect back, and take notes. I mean, really, if anybody's going to reflect on a career that as long as I have, and they haven't started on it, I mean, that's going to take a lot of time just to even try to remember everything.
Oh, sure.
So I mean, obviously, it's crossed your mind, but it all depends on how serious how serious are you with it? And I mean, like I said, would you put it out as a second publication, or would you want to add this to this and kind of beef it up a little bit?
That decision I haven't made yet.
Okay.
I have started writing on it. I do have notes. I do have a couple chapters wrote, and it would just. I think what would make the final decision is whenever the final chapter of Attila is written in the ring, how much material I'd have. Is it enough to stand alone? Because I have been extremely fortunate. I've had basically two careers. I had a career as the drill instructor that I was blessed beyond belief, blessed more than I ever deserved. And then I've been fortunate that I reinvented as Attila and have went on a run that honestly may overshadow what the drill instructor did, and possibly I've had a hell of a lot more fun with, really.
Yeah, I mean,
if you do end up finishing a second book, you need to have another chair shot with Ruby first, in my opinion. I mean,
well, I mean, you got to get us both in the same ring at the same time, man, for that to happen. And I don't care. I mean, I'll do it again. I don't care. At least show how it's done. I mean, because hey, we were brought up that way as far as the way we school. So, right. Regarding with coming to Attila now, kind of a two-parter here. I mean, was this a character to reinvent who you are as a wrestler, and is the character considered like an American turncoat to go something totally against what the drill instructor was? Like drill instructor, of course, mostly you would think it would be considered as a face. Obviously, Attila, dressed as a sheik, you think Middle Eastern, you think,
right.
Whatever. So, so with regards to those two parts of the question.
Yeah, Attila, when that started coming to fruition, the way it had really started is I had stepped away from wrestling and I hadn't attended any shows. I had disappeared. And my daughters are 15 and 16 now. They were digging through some stuff in my old storage stuff, and they found a bag full of these pictures of the drill instructor.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, they had also there were some magazines in there that I was in, and every time we went out in public, somebody would talk about the DI, and so they knew their dad was a wrestler. They knew that he was the drill instructor, but they had never seen me wrestle, and so they started becoming fans. And at the time, Herb Simmons, SICW promoter, him and Larry were working together. They had a show coming up, and I said, "Hey, girls, do you want to go to a show?" And this was the first show that I had attended in years. And so I called Herb, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to come over and check this out." And I get there, and it's pro wrestling is kind of like the worst relationship that you've ever been in with the craziest girl. And I get there, and I was like, man, I really missed this. And initially I said, hey, why don't I come back as a manager? I'll just be a manager. And all the boys, I'm talking to Ron Powers and Keith and some different guys, and they're like, no, we'd really like to see you in the ring again. And I said, well, I've a lot of reconstructive surgeries on my shoulders and just different things. And I said, man, I just don't know. And I said, I don't look like the DI anymore. I said, I got this big old beard. I got all these tattoos. I said, I can't be the drill instructor anymore. And so that's where the Abdullah influence came in. I actually, I called Abdullah. I had established a friendship with Abby through Harley Race many years ago. And I said, hey, I want to do this character. And I want your input, help me develop who this person is. And Abby, after many phone calls and messages, all the way down to where do I order the boots? Where do I get the pants? And you got to use a fork. Okay, I can do that too. And so we did it as a completely standalone character with no relationship to the DI. We billed Attila as the Mongolian madman, Mongolian monster, all these things. And it was funny because I was probably a few years into the run of Attila, and there were still guys in the locker room that would come up to me and go, hey, somebody told me you were the drill instructor. They had been in the locker room with me for 2 and 3 years and still didn't know that I was the guy that was this other person. And so with that, I have been able to really establish 2 separate careers. One that was completely babyface for, a decade and a half or more. And then now is this heel. And it's been great. And being older, and I wrestle now because I love to wrestle. I'm not chasing the dream. There isn't the stress, and there isn't the continuous chasing of that carrot trying to make it, because I'm satisfied to the levels that I've climbed in this business and the places I've been. And I do it now because I love to do it. I love to be in front of that crowd, and I just want to leave a business. I want to leave a mark on that business that we're involved in, that we've all been in this together, and I want to hopefully leave it better than I found it.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, with your battles, I mean, like I said, you've had many battles with, with Ricky Cruz, like I said, last year around this time, over the Belleville, Illinois Fairgrounds. You had a big match with Tommy Dreamer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we get yeah.
It was the Tommy Dreamer opportunity. It was, Herb came to me, and Herb. It's funny. Herb and I go back to my first day at Broadway. I mean, that's how long we've been around each other. I mean, Herb was there my first day in the business, and he comes to me and he says, "Hey, we're doing this big show at the Belclair Fairgrounds and what have you." And I'm like, "Good to go." And he's like, "We're going to bring in Tommy Dreamer." And boy, my ears perked up, because Tommy has always been one of those kind of dream matches for me. I always felt, even as the drill instructor, with the violent side of the DI, I thought, man, that'd be a good pairing. But especially with the Attila character. I said, "You are?" I said, "Is Tommy going to work?" He said, "Yes, he is." And he says, "We want you to work with him." And I was like, deal. And, they started to build up on that several months out. And I had talked to Tommy a couple times before going in the show. We had never met. And, that card, you had Val Venus, Bob Orton, Tony Atlas, Tommy Dreamer, Road Warrior was on there. I mean, then you throw in the Ricky Cruz, the Flash Flanagan, and what a night. And just the opportunity to get in there with Tommy. And it was funny, because when he first got to the building, it's not like, he walked in and hugged everybody and was so glad to see everybody. And there's a difference meeting guys that are still in the business, still in the game, compared to meeting legends that's coming around on a farewell tour. There's a different mindset there. And, we spent a lot of time talking, and he got to know my background a little bit, and my relationships, again, with Harley and Haku and Barbarian and Bob. He sees Bob Orton come in and speak to me, as soon as he comes in. And so there was kind of a respect level before we got out there. And to get in there with a guy the caliber of Tommy Dreamer, and I mean, he is phenomenal to work with. And the things that he's done in the business, that speaks for themselves. And we've had contact a couple times since that match, and I would definitely welcome the opportunity to go another round with him.
Oh yeah, I mean that'll be awesome. I mean, just have Tommy Dreamer there, and the work in the card, and I'll tell you, unfortunately I didn't get out to that show, but I mean, I know it was a great house, and I know you guys tore it up. I mean, like I said, and you and Rick, your work over in SICW, with Ricky Cruz. I mean, you guys, holy guys, that was a bloodbath. Seeing all the pictures from that, oh my God, I was like, ooh.
I still have people that send messages, and the pictures that people have sent. They literally, they had to throw the ring apron away. They had to buy a new canvas because of the blood. And it was a mess. But I tell you, Ricky Cruz is, it's, you ask, favorite opponents, and I would break those into two calibers, or two sections, the DI's favorite opponent, and then Attila's favorite opponent.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that I look more forward to than Attila Khan versus Ricky Cruz. And because I can tell you that every time that you see that on a card someplace, it's going to be one that you're going to talk about.
Oh man, yeah. I think I did see the match on video, but my God, I mean, you guys were all over the place. I was like, dang.
I saw it live. I was there, and it was an amazing match, definitely, and it was a lot of blood loss in that match.
A ton.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I've never seen Ricky's gear so messy in his career, at least not that I can recollect. And that was he was even going into new style of gear too. I don't even know if he still has it, unless he's letting it soak in wool out still. But
I don't know that he's wore that particular gear since that night. I don't know. I don't know if he could.
Not enough cold washes are going to get that out. I'll tell you that.
Right.
Oh my God, that is, yeah, but man, that was brutal. In regards to your entire career, though, going all the way back, your time as a DI, and then merging in as Attila, 26 years. Is there any particular moment that stands out in your, as you would say, your crowning achievement in your professional wrestling career?
There are a couple things, and it's hard to just put one over the other.
Right.
The match, I had a match with Pete Madden in the early 90s, and we went back to the high school that I graduated from. And probably had close to 2,000 people in a high school gymnasium.
Wow.
Would put it, that's one at the very top. The working for the WWF, coming down that ramp, stepping up in that ring in St. Louis. And so I got to do it kind of in my hometown, and so some people recognized me. So it wasn't just one of the, who's this guy?
Yeah.
That would be at the top. But I would say probably becoming the WLW world champion. And people can say there's all kinds of opinions on championships and what they mean in professional wrestling. And the WLW championship was different for me because you were considered Harley Race's champion.
Right.
And that made a big difference. That belt was defended all over the world by people. But for me, it was a symbol that Harley Race trusted me to be the face of his company. And to have that respect offered towards you by somebody that is, the term legend is thrown around so much today, but Harley Race truly is a legend.
Yes,
and,
yes.
I would say putting that belt on. And then, honestly, the honor that I just had this past February is right there at the top.
Oh, yes. And I'm going to segue into that here with the Midwest Independent Wrestling Hall of Fame class of 2019. And I've been putting pictures up here on the video feed in case you didn't know. But throughout the entire night,
I see that picture's from the night I won the belt.
Yep.
Me standing there with Harley.
Yep. Yes. Yeah. And then so that was definitely a good crowning achievement, and that's awesome. Yeah. Going quickly back to that, when someone a lot of people could say that wrestling titles don't mean anything in the business, but I'm going to tell you what, it really does mean something because it means that the promoter puts his faith or her faith into you as an individual who is going to represent the company inside and outside the ring, and also with professionalism. I mean, there's a lot of things: professionalism, work, and ring ethic. And I mean, there's just so many attributes that go into why you would be chosen as champion, just to make yourself as a representative. And I'll tell you what, because I mean, I've seen so many things back in the day where people cry about why they don't get a championship. Well, here's the reason: if you cry about it, you're not going to get it, because whiners don't win.
Right.
I mean, unless you want to go wrestle for the Liberal Wrestling Federation, but that's another thing I won't talk about. But, but going back into the Midwest Independent Wrestling Hall of Fame, you were one of 5 guys that were inducted here. We've got John. You're pictured here with John Blackheart. Great wrestling promoter Herb Simmons, Chico S. Loco, and of course the great wrestling manager in Al Stevens. Those, all 5 guys there. And so tell me what. Tell me in your words. I mean, what it really means to you, knowing that. Not only just standing with these with these other guys. I mean, being in that elite, what is now going to be like an elite class, of guys that have earned their way to the recognition for what they've done in this business.
It was extremely humbling. Is the best way for me to describe that, because to be honored. By the board, by a board of your peers, and to have the career that I've had, and just I never started with the idea that I'm going to be in the Hall of Fame someday. I'm going to be remembered as this or that. I just wanted to go out and give the best show I could give. And when I was notified that I had been selected, was just it was an awesome experience to look at all the prior inductees ahead of me and the accomplishments of all those individuals and the careers they've had. To share the stage with them is really tough to describe what that's like. And something that really stood out to me when I look back at all of the members of the hall is how fortunate I really have been, because other than probably a couple of those guys, I was either trained by or had extensive ring experience in front of a crowd with almost every member of that Hall of Fame. And every promoter that's in there, the late Tony Costa, Herb Simmons, Frank Reed, Searcher, I've worked for every one of them. And I'm just like, I have been so fortunate, that I was surrounded by Hall of Famers my entire career. So it just shows us, I guess, as long as I picked up a little bit from somebody, I couldn't help but learn something, because I had the best in the Midwest around me my entire career. And I've been very fortunate, and I hope that there'll be a day that they're interviewing somebody else that will say, the DI or Attila or Dennis McCaws, whatever it is, man, he helped me, or he set the example. He was a locker room leader, or there's respect, and that I lead this business better than I found it.
Yeah,
I believe there'd be no doubt that would be said. There was no doubt that you can guarantee people will say that about you.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, Dennis, I mean, rough cut Rick Ruby and the drill instructor back in CSWA. We had we had a short run. I mean, but we hit towns. With Slater, we hit, Overland. Overland, Missouri. I mean, hop, skip, and a jump away from where I'm at. I mean, gosh. I mean, that was something here, and I mean, man, talk about a guy who could throw in a clothesline that would you'd feel it, but he won't kill you with it. But but I mean, gosh, I mean, we took it everywhere. I mean, the only guy that Joel Instructor is the only guy that we were able to pull off a superplex, and I've never ever done a superplex with anybody else. And I'll tell you what, and I'm thinking to myself, like, oh gosh, I hope I could just perch off of this top and just fly out there. Yeah, I just got to get over.
well, here's the thing: for every person that would say how well you did, there's always going to be coming back to when you knocked the crap out of Rick Ruby and made him goofy permanently. I'm just going to say, it's written in paper in this book that you can get on Amazon.
Oh my God, yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, I saw tape of it many, many times over, and I swore someone just threw off a 12 gauge in the gymnasium. It sounded that freaking bad. So
it was horrendous. It was horrendous.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, I mean, it's left my mark, and I didn't really know at the time but I'm pretty sure that I was feeling pretty funny for about a couple days after that, but I got my wits back eventually. Thank God for being young then and just having to suck it up and deal with it for a couple days. Not so much in my day,
right?
Not so much anymore.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
Yeah, I may have to take a vacay if I get another thing like that again. But I guess we won't know until it happens. But man, but we've been on here for quite a while, and I mean, once again, it's all my fault again. Well, actually, no, I'm going to blame Sprint because. Now I don't know if I can even three-way call with Sprint. If I can, then I'm going to be raising HE double hockey sticks tomorrow. Yeah, I know, GQ. you're blaming. He's pointing down at me, blaming me. God, it's always me. I'm the one running the controls here. I guess I got no choice but to take all the blunt in the heat for this. So, but yeah. I hope that there is a chance to wrestle soon. If not, I mean, like I said, I mean, we may be looking into maybe October, but either way, us guys, we got to find a way to at least keep the bones in the joints of flexing one way or the other,
it's
it's
since this is, I do actually do quite a bit of running. I run 5-6 days a week, and anywhere from 5 to 8 miles a day when I run. And it's one thing being in cardio shape, and there's being in ring shape. It's two different things.
Yes, and that is true.
At my age, those first few bumps coming back, boy, that's going to shake all the way down to the core, I think.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, yeah. So yeah, it's going to be hard for whenever us guys get back in there. We're going to probably be lucky if we even hit 10 minutes in our matches. So I mean, you know what I'm saying? Even if we do keep each other in shape, because we've been on the shelf for so long, man, we're probably going to take a bump and like, ow.
Right. Yeah, I'm anxious to get back out there in front of that crowd. Let them hate me, let them love the good guy, and
fling some blood at them and everything.
Right. I told my wife, I said, I'm going to have to start, getting some color here at the house or whatever. I'm getting full. I usually get to leak a little bit of that out, each month.
Yeah, man. Well, like I said, we've been having some guys in here, kind of watch it there. I know Herb's been watching, the Scribe, Steve Craig Miles has been in here. And also I wanted to do this here real quick because next week we will have our 7th edition of the Falls Count Everywhere podcast, where we will be welcoming the Butcher, Damian Blade, to the Falls.
What a great wrestler!
Oh my goodness! You talk about a guy who reinvented himself, and then having to overcome just some obstacles just so he can get back inside the square circle. I mean, I'm sure he's got some great stories to tell here. So definitely next Thursday night's going to be a great. It's going to be another awesome interview that we're going to have with that. So I mean, looking forward to having Damian Blade with us here next week. So, but from the drill instructor to now the vicious Attila Khan, one of the most feared guys in the Midwest. And I'll tell you what, I wouldn't want to be around him with a fork or even with a stick or anything, because you'll find some way to make it out of a weapon or something. But man, but great having you on here, brother. I appreciate it, and
I appreciate it too. Thank you for having me. Man, everybody that's ever stepped in there with me, I appreciate it. And I mean, Herb Simmons over at SICW, the opportunity for this old guy to get back in there and reinvent himself. And, I sure appreciate that. And, the Hall of Fame, all of it, I just appreciate it. And I mean, for you guys, to have me on here tonight and, take an interest in what I've done. I thank both of you guys, and we all three go back many years together. We've had a lot of fun, the three of us, and Ruby, we've had some great times. So just thank you for having me and giving me this platform tonight.
Oh, man.
And don't forget, you can get this book on Amazon and for e-readers as well.
Yes,
that is correct.
Yes,
that is correct.
And maybe more to follow. We just don't know when, but if we do, definitely you want to hit the bookshelves for that. So, Attila Khan, drill instructor, thank you very much for gracing us with your presence tonight, and it'd be awesome. Like I said, it'd be awesome to see you in action here in person again. Who knows?
I can't wait. I can't wait. Thanks a lot, guys. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, brother. Well, you have a good rest of your night, man. Take care.
See ya.
All righty. All right, man. Well, I'll tell you what. GQ, great interview here with the drill instructor, Attila Khan. Of course, I'm just going to call him Attila Khan now. I mean, he's already proven his worth as the drill instructor, and just a great individual all the way around, inside and outside the ring. So,
well, go ahead, tick him off and see what happens. You knock your head off even more so.
yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. I would. You know what I love, though? I really should have said this. I really would have loved if there's anybody getting into the business. I would have loved just to see what Attila Khan would do for the first day of training, since he's been through so much. I pay admission for that. So, oh my goodness.
I'd pay for you to go through that.
Oh my goodness, I don't think I could anymore. I don't know. I had to get myself in better shape, better cardio shape. Yeah, no chair shots in training, brother. You don't train for that stuff. But anyway, I kind of teased on the podcast network page as far as a big announcement. Of course, once again, this Thursday night or next Thursday night will be the Butcher, Damian Blade, and it's going to be a great interview with him. And so that'll be next Thursday. But as far as 2 weeks from now, we have got a big show that we're lined up to give you guys. And we're going to give you a little bit of a preview here. You probably can't hear GQ. Breathe. but this is a theme song from Extreme Championship Wrestling. And the reason why I'm playing that is because of this. 2 weeks from tonight, we welcome ECW original Bill Alfonso to the Falls Count Everywhere podcast. And we're going to be talking over the career for Bill Alfonso. Of course, he has done a lot outside of ECW. You know, he's worked in the NWA. Of course, had some time with Titan and WWF. And just going to go over his tenure in ECW, maybe some things that have happened behind the scenes. But we're going to have a good hour with Bill Alfonso on 2 weeks from tonight. So Bill Alfonso will be here with myself and GQ. So awesome stuff. Can't wait for it. So, and then after that, guess what? I'm going on vacation and not doing a thing for about 2 weeks. But we are going to have a show on July 30th. Just don't know yet who we're going to have as a guest. But we are going to, but like I said, we've got some time to work up to get our guest. You know, we love having these conversations, GQ, bringing up the guys that have really worked hard in this industry and have gone, you know, more than earned their respect and should be earning their, and everybody should be paying respect to everybody, you know, that's where they've paved the way for us and just showing us a great work ethic. And really should, you know, these guys, I'll tell you what, these guys should be the ones that are in the training gyms if they had the time to do it. So, someone's saying that a certain individual saying Coronication. No, I don't think so, brother. I'll be just fine. Not gonna have that. So, but Damian Blade knows all about the place where I'm going to, and hopefully he doesn't have the Rona either. You know. And GQ's telling me I'm number one. So, oh man, any final thoughts or anything that you need to let us know what's going on in the world of Mr. GQ?
Just remember to check out bookstores everywhere for this fine book, or Amazon.
Yeah, and I'm sure if someone's got a bootleg tape of my chair shot, you could probably buy that if someone wants to make some money off of that. I don't know.
Well, that would be the second thing I would watch over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, and probably if I watch that again, I probably would suffer. It's probably just as much. So, oh my gosh. But we're going to wrap things up. I know we went a little over tonight. Part of that was due to the technical difficulties. But hey, you know, at least we're not on a time block like some talk radio website that gives us horrible communication where everything cuts out. So, oh
sorry.
Oh my gosh.
I miss the board. I really miss the soundboard though. I really do.
Yeah, I know. We got to find a way to, I guess, incorporate that with your audio, but I don't know how well we're going to do with that. But who knows? But yeah, thank you very much for Attila for joining us and our guest of the evening. We'll look forward to you guys next week. We're going to sign off here for now. Once again, this was episode 6. Next week, you're gonna have episode 7 featuring the Butcher Damian Blade. And for myself, Buckhead Rick Ruby, and Mr. GQ, we're heading out of here. Hey, you guys have a great 4th of July. Great 4th of July. Enjoy your 4th of July weekend. God bless this country, and God bless all of you. You have a good rest of your night, guys. See ya.